Something has changed in the silence, not the silence itself. It looks the same from the outside. No messages, no calls. The same absence of contact that has defined the stretch of your journey. But the quality of it has shifted, and if you have been paying attention, even a little, you have felt it. The silence that used to feel like distance now feels like pressure. Like something is building underneath the surface of it. Like the quiet is not empty anymore, but full of something that has not found a way out yet. That shift is not your imagination. It is not hope making things up. It is not the mind spinning a story to stay sane. Something is genuinely different right now in the energetic space between you and your twin flame, and it has everything to do with what the cosmos is doing tomorrow. Pluto is stationing retrograde on May 6, 2026. And I want you to understand what that actually means for this connection, not in abstract astronomical terms, but in the lived, felt, immediate reality of what you are about to experience. If you feel this pressure building, if the silence feels louder than it did even a month ago, leave a like, subscribe, and drop the words "I feel the shift" in the comments right now. Because what is happening is real, and it is significant, and it is closer than you think. Before we go any further, I want to talk about the personal readings that I am offering currently. You are in the middle of something that the general explanations no longer cover. You can feel it. The energy between you has changed. Something is pressing, building, moving, and you cannot get clarity on what it means for you specifically. Not for twin flames in general. For you, your chart, your connection, your timing. That gap between what you sense and what you can confirm is exactly what a personal twin flame union reading closes. Right now, with Pluto stationing retrograde, your birth chart is being activated in very precise ways. The degrees it touches are personal to you. The house it moves through is your story, not a collective one. A reading built from your exact birth details, your full name, your date and time and place of birth, tells you what this specific sky is doing to your specific connection. What is actually being forced to the surface? What can no longer stay buried? Where you are in the timing and what your soul contract is moving toward right now. You receive a personal audio reading delivered to your inbox and a detailed PDF report to return to again and again. You can order yours right now. The link is in the description, and your reading arrives within 48 hours. Okay, let's get back to the video. Pluto is not a gentle planet. It does not nudge. It does not suggest. It does not offer the option of a gradual, comfortable unfolding. Pluto rules the underworld, the things that have been buried, the things that could not be acknowledged in the light, the material that went underground, not because it stopped being real, but because the surface self, both yours and his, did not yet have the capacity to hold it without being overwhelmed by it. When Pluto stations, it goes still. And when Pluto goes still at 5 degrees of Aquarius, what it does is intensify. Everything that has been moving, even slowly, even underground, even in that invisible space between two people who are not in contact but are absolutely still in connection, stops moving outward and begins to press inward. And that inward pressure is what you are feeling right now in this silence. It is not a bad thing, but it is not a comfortable thing, and it is absolutely not nothing. Carl Jung wrote extensively about what he called the shadow, the material the psyche cannot accept about itself and therefore drives underground. Not because it is destroyed, nothing is destroyed. It goes into the unconscious, where it continues to operate, continues to shape behavior, continues to exert pressure on the personality from below the level of awareness. The shadow does not go away because it is rejected. It waits. This is not a metaphor when it comes to twin flames. It is almost literal. In a twin flame connection, both people activate each other's shadow material with a precision that no other relationship matches. That is part of what makes the recognition so overwhelming in the beginning. It is not just love in the conventional sense. It is the sudden, shattering experience of being seen at a level that includes the parts of yourself that you have spent years learning not to see. He saw something in you that reflected back to him the parts of himself he has been most unable to face. You saw something in him that showed you the territory of yourself you were not ready to enter. And the connection, because of its nature, could not let either of you look away from that, so he ran. Not from you. That is important to understand, even though it does not feel that way. He ran from the mirror, from the thing the connection was requiring him to see about himself that he did not have the architecture to hold yet. The silence, his silence, was never about absence of feeling. It was the ego's emergency response to a level of psychic pressure it could not metabolize without dismantling the structure it had built to stay functional. Jungian analyst Marian Woodman, whose work on the feminine and the transformative power of the unconscious remains essential reading for anyone trying to understand what this kind of connection does to a person, described the encounter with the true self as simultaneously the most sought-after and most terrifying event in a human life. Because the true self does not arrive alone. It arrives with everything that was sacrificed to keep it at bay. What is buried in his silence is not indifference. It is everything the connection required him to feel that he has not yet found a way to survive feeling. And Pluto stationing retrograde is about to make that buried material a great deal harder to ignore. Here is what is happening inside the divine masculine right now, in this week, in the specific quality of this silence. There is a restlessness he cannot source. He does not know where it is coming from. The surface explanations, the ones he has been using to justify the distance, the ones about timing and readiness and needing to figure himself out, are beginning to feel less convincing, not because anything in his external circumstances has changed, because the unconscious material that the silence was supposed to contain has reached a volume that the containment strategy can no longer manage. This is the Pluto effect. As it slows to its station, the pressure on suppressed material builds. What has been held at a distance by willpower and distraction and the sheer momentum of forward motion in a life that does not include you begins to press back. It comes in waves. Not thoughts about you exactly, not always. It can come as a general dissatisfaction, a flatness to things that used to work, a moment in the middle of something entirely unrelated where he surfaces from a thought he cannot account for and finds that thought was about you. Jung described this as the return of the repressed, though he meant it in a more specific psychodynamic sense than Freud. For Jung, what returns from the unconscious is not merely an uncomfortable memory. It is an aspect of the self that was split off and projected onto another person. And when the projection cannot be maintained, when the person carrying it is no longer present to receive it, what happens is not relief. What happens is that the projected material becomes available for integration, which sounds like a neutral process but feels like nothing less than a personality reorganization. He is beginning to feel you not as a person he misses in a surface emotional way, though that is part of it. He is beginning to feel the absence of something he threw out of himself onto you and does not know how to find now that you are not available to carry it. The Ima'an, Jungian terms. The interior feminine, the relatedness, the depth, the capacity for vulnerability that he projected onto you in the beginning of the connection and then ran from when it became too real. That material is returning, and it is not doing so quietly. The silence has had a function. For him, it has been a holding pattern, a way of maintaining a version of reality in which the decision to step back still makes sense, in which the narrative of not being ready can still be believed, in which the distance creates enough space from the mirror that the reflection is not overwhelming him every moment of every day. But the dynamic of a twin flame connection is not static, even in complete silence, even in months of no contact. The energetic exchange between two people who are in this kind of connection does not stop because the communication has stopped. The mirror is still operating. The unconscious is still engaged. The soul-level work that the connection was designed to facilitate is still happening, below the surface, in the dream state, in the moments of involuntary recognition that arrive without warning in the middle of an ordinary day. And there is a threshold, a point at which the holding pattern costs more than the thing it was designed to avoid. When the suppression of the material, the connection activated begins to require more energy than the ego can sustainably allocate to it. When the stories that justified the distance begin to require more maintenance than they are worth. Pluto at its station is a pressure point, not a deadline in a linear sense. A moment of concentrated intensity in which what has been building reaches a peak that requires something to move, either inward into genuine confrontation with the buried material, or outward in the form of a contact impulse, a reaching out, a need to know that you are still there, that he may not be able to fully rationalize, but also cannot completely ignore. This is why you are feeling what you are feeling right now. The energetic pressure is not one-directional. It is not only him processing internally while you wait on the outside. You are inside the same field. What is building in him is building in the dynamic, which means you are feeling it too. You are feeling the pressure that is pressing on the space between you, and it is real. This is a good moment to mention something that can help you make sense of what you are tracking. Because when Pluto stations and this kind of pressure builds, the signs multiply. Synchronicities, dreams, number patterns, sudden emotional waves that do not seem connected to anything happening in your life right now. Those signs deserve to be documented, not because obsessing over them helps, because the pattern they form over weeks and months tells you something about your actual progress that the mind alone cannot see. The Twin Flame Journey Tracker and Progress Workbook was built for exactly this moment. When you are in pre-union tension and everything feels like it means something, but you cannot tell what is real momentum and what is your nervous system running stories. 39 pages. A synchronicity log that gives your signs a place to land rather than disappear into the noise of a hard week. An 8-stage tracker so you can locate where you actually are in this journey right now rather than guessing from inside the feeling. Weekly and monthly reflections that, over time, show you in black and white that things are moving even when they do not feel like they are moving. The link is below. On your side of this, there is something that needs to be named directly. You have been holding the knowing, not just the love, not just the hope, the knowing. The deep, inconvenient, impossible to fully explain knowing that this is not over, that what exists between you is not resolved by distance, that the silence does not mean what a silence between ordinary people would mean. You have been holding that knowing in the face of everything that tries to argue against it. The length of the silence, the lack of any signal from him, the opinions of people around you who have concluded that it is time to move on and cannot understand why you have not. That is not delusion. That is not the wounded ego refusing to accept reality. That is the felt sense of the actual dynamic, which is not subject to the surface-level logic that says if someone is not in contact, they are gone. But holding that knowing has its own cost. And part of what Pluto stationing is doing on your side is pressing on the places where the holding has been weighing on you. The exhaustion of carrying certainty that you cannot fully explain or defend. The grief underneath the knowing. The grief of wanting the reality of the connection to be visible in the physical world, the way it is visible to you in the inner world. The particular loneliness of being the one who can feel something that the person generating it is currently too defended to consciously acknowledge. Jung wrote about what he called the individuation process as the journey toward wholeness through the integration of opposites, not the resolution of conflict by choosing one side, the holding of both sides simultaneously until something new emerges that is larger than either. You have been doing this work, the work of holding both the love and the grief, both the knowing and the not knowing. Both the certainty about the connection and the genuine acceptance that you cannot control his timeline or his readiness. That work is not passive. It is the active psychological labor of differentiation, of becoming a person who can hold complexity without collapsing either into false certainty or into despair. And it is exactly that quality of self, the self that has learned to hold opposites, that the connection needs both of you to develop before it can move into a different phase. You have been doing your part, more than your part. There is a fear that lives underneath the hope in a moment like this. The fear that if something breaks open, if the pressure building in this silence finally finds a way to move, what breaks might not be the silence. What breaks might be the last of your certainty. What breaks might be the sense that this connection still holds the possibility you have been carrying for it. That fear is worth addressing directly. What Pluto retrograde breaks open is suppression. It breaks open the unconscious material that has been stored below the surface. It does not break the soul-level connection. It does not dissolve what was seeded into the energy field of this relationship at the level of genuine recognition. Those things exist at a depth that surface planetary transits do not reach. Pluto retrograde is not a threat to the connection. It is a pressure on everything that has been preventing the connection from moving forward. The shadow material in him that has been maintaining the distance. The unconscious patterns that made running feel safer than staying. The internalized beliefs about what he is capable of, about what he deserves, about whether a depth of connection like this one is something he is allowed to have. Pluto retrograde presses on all of that, not to destroy it, but to make it conscious, to bring it from the underground where it operates invisibly into the light where it can be seen, named, and eventually integrated. What breaks open is the structure that was keeping things stuck. What stays intact is everything that was real. And in a twin flame connection, what was real at a level that a planetary station, however intense, cannot touch. The recognition was real. The soul-level meeting was real. The mirror each of you held for the other was real. None of that is stored in the distance or in the silence or in the surface structures that Pluto is about to press on. All of that is stored in the connection itself, which exists at the level of the unconscious and the soul, which is precisely where Pluto is working. Which means Pluto retrograde is not working against this connection. It is working inside it. This is not a moment to push, to reach out from anxiety. To test the pressure by adding more contact pressure from your side to see if the energy is what you feel it is. Pluto retrograde asks for something very specific, and it is the same thing that the Jungian individuation process asks for. Conscious descent, deliberate willingness to go into the material that the surface mind would rather avoid. To sit with what is true about where you are, about what this journey has cost you, about what you have genuinely transformed in yourself through the work of this separation, not bypassing it into spiritual language that floats above the actual feeling, but going into it with the kind of honesty that Pluto demands. Because Pluto does not reward performance, it rewards authenticity. It rewards the willingness to stop managing the appearance of things and look at what is actually there. On your side, that means letting yourself feel the full weight of where you are right now. Not the hope dressed up as certainty. Not the certainty dressed up as detachment. The real experience of being in pre-union tension with someone you love, at a depth you cannot fully explain, in a silence that has gone on long enough to be exhausting, feeling something building that you cannot control and can only witness. Let that be what it is, without narrating it into something more manageable, without translating it into a stage or a timeline or a sign that confirms what you already believe. Just the raw, present-tense reality of being here, in this, now. That quality of presence, the willingness to be genuinely in your own experience without escaping it into analysis or hope or spiritual framework, is precisely what the individuation process requires at this stage. And it is precisely what makes a person ready for the next thing. You did not come this far in this journey to be someone who cannot sit with what is real. You have been sitting with what is real for months. You have earned the right to be exactly here, in exactly this energy, without needing it to resolve faster than it is going to resolve. The silence is building towards something. You can feel that. Trust what you feel. Pluto does not station without purpose. It does not press on the underground without eventually requiring something to surface. What has been buried between you and your twin flame? The shadow material in him. The projection that has not yet completed its return journey. The unconscious knowing in both of you that this is not finished is under more pressure right now than it has been in months. That pressure does not disperse. It finds a way through. The silence is about to break something open, and what comes through the break is not destruction. It is what was always there, finally becoming too real to stay underground any longer. Stay present. Stay in your own experience. Let the pressure do what it came here to do. You have been in this long enough to know that the moments that feel most still on the surface are often the moments something is most active underneath. This is one of those moments.